This is the football show. Oh, look, never rains but it pours for Manchester United. Let's look at their side of Super Sunday. A 14th defeat of the season saw Erik Ten Hag again facing questions on their performances. He accepts they're currently treading water, but is adamant that injuries are to blame.
That is, any manager can also always do anything better, but also when I'm now 2 years here and I only had one time a full group of players. And you can't progress a team when we have, particularly in certain key areas, so many injuries. It's like swimming with the hands on your back, and then you have to keep your head up above the water level, and that is what we're trying to do. And still, we are in a cup final. This is good, but if you want to progress a team, you need fit players, and you see it on our opponent today. They had only one, not 100% match fit player. And we had so many.
Now, Wayne Rooney has questioned the character of some of United's unavailable players, claiming they could play if they really wanted to.
There's some very good players in that squad, and the performances are way below par. And as we look at the injuries they've picked up, and some of them players can play. Some of them players can play with
the injured players.
Yeah, 100%.
That's quite a big claim. That you're saying that some Manchester United players who we're not seeing out there now are fit enough to be in that, and that's their choice.
You've got European Championships coming up, you've got an FA final coming up. It's easy for players to, because they're getting a little bit of stick now, it's easy for players to stay out for a little bit and then come back towards the final and get themselves ready for the European Championships. And you've seen it, I've seen it myself over the years. So I just think the players who are being injured, they're not filling themselves with any credit at the minute, and the manager's going to take all the stick for that.
If Manchester United want the best chance of success moving forward, we know they're changing from the top all the way through. Would you have Erik Ten Hag as your choice?
It reminds me of Men in Black, if I'm being honest. He starts talking, presses his button on his pen, and it finishes. And I'm sitting here now thinking, ain't that bad, is it? Wasn't that bad? It was shocking.
And you're looking at that last half an hour, decision making, nobody digging anybody out, people making mistakes, falling over, and everyone just walking away, not putting demands on each other. Like that United team there. So bad.
Paul Merson. Wonderful. Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, Luke Shaw, Lisandro Martinez, Malacia, Anthony Martial and Rafael Varane. That's the list of players, main list of players who were unavailable yesterday. Wayne Rooney with his comments. Ten Hag says injuries to blame. Wayne Rooney claiming they could play if they really wanted to. Now, we're not going to go into which individuals he was referring to because we don't know. And that would be unfair on Wayne and also the players maybe that he is alluding to. So we don't know. But in general, what do you make of those comments?
Well, he's obviously been in changing rooms where he's had that before, and being the type of person that Wayne Rooney is, and probably Roy Keane is, they probably drag players out the physio room and make sure that they're playing and get round them and tell them that they're needed and wanted. And I think when you've got a mentality like Rooney's, it's very difficult to understand how players are like that. I also think he probably knows more than he's letting on. I think he probably knows people still at the club who he spoke to, and medical staff are disappointed in what they're seeing as well. But what can the medical staff do? If a player comes in and says he's not feeling great or he's struggling with something, they've got to protect the player. It's up to the player, the individual, to know whether they're right or not and can play. But I totally understand what he's saying, and the fact of it's very easy at times when you are losing games to hide and to not come out and front it and to disappear. I think we spoke a couple. I remember having the discussion saying when Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal are at the top, the hardest thing to do is to actually admit an injury because you don't want to lose your place. You're fearful of not being part of the squad and achieving big things. So you start to play with niggles, and then you actually being detrimental to a great team. And that's a hard balance to get. But with what Wayne Rooney's saying there about the Man United players, I can totally understand it.
Yeah. United, you can understand, actually heavily criticised after last week's 4-0 thrashing at Palace. Going into this one, people were predicting cricket scores almost. So was actually the response positive from United? They still lost, but compared to Selhurst Park, was there a response there?
Yeah, well, they had lots of possession or spells of possession, but they just really lacked in and around their, the penalty box. They lacked that cutting edge, that quality that was needed. And I think when you look at the Manchester United team yesterday, the word that probably describes them better than anything is lightweight. Because I think when you look at, some of the greatest teams, you look at the greatest teams now, the likes of Manchester City and Arsenal, you look at the greater teams, of history, you think of them as really strong, powerful, athletic teams. And I just don't see that with this Manchester United side. So, yeah, I know there's so many injuries, and I know that's what Ten Hag will say. They've had 14 different centre-back partnerships. They've had lots of different, connections within the midfield that have had to chop and change, and that's always difficult then to build any sort of rhythm and momentum. So I completely get that. I do completely understand it. But I was just looking at that team yesterday, and I just felt that they were lightweight. So yes, much better than the Crystal Palace game where they were really poor, and not taking anything away from Crystal Palace, who were excellent. Arsenal weren't at their very best yesterday, and I just felt Manchester United were getting in and around their penalty box, and there wasn't really anything there, no real sort of end product, which obviously needs to improve.
Yeah, I mean, even that Barcelona team that had wonderful talent like Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, still had the Busquets in there, still had the Puyol, still had the...
They had nasty people.
PK in there.
Nasty people in there.
Still had those in there. I hear what you're saying, Susan Jane Smith. This idea, though, Sue, I mean, we're just coming off the back of hearing Wayne Rooney saying maybe some players could be fit if they really wanted it. There is no accusation that Casemiro's hiding, because he got a hiding on Monday night, yet he turned up and he played in that position again. He was willing to do it for the sake of the team. And therefore, despite the criticism, you saw Stephen, he could have pushed up further. I'm struggling to have too negative, because he's there and he's trying.
Of course he is, and you can't fault that, the fact that, like you say, he's putting himself out there, he's playing out of position, so you've got to credit him for doing that. And he's had a tough week, hasn't he? He struggled against Palace, he was dropped from the Brazil squad, the mistake for the goal against Arsenal. But he is playing out of position, and I think anybody playing in that position, the way that Manchester United are set up in terms of there's so many opportunities against, it's so easy to go straight through that midfield area. And when you look at the stats, I think yesterday it was quite interesting that the stats for shots on goal weren't as high as what they have been previously. But in other games, you see that, it's 20 shots against Manchester United. So I think as a centre-half in there, it's always going to be difficult because you've got no protection in front of you. So that's always going to be tough. But yeah, he puts himself out there. He has had injuries, but at the moment he does look a shadow of what we know he's capable of.
But the big thing is because it's Casemiro, no one's saying, well, he could have had a dip in confidence.
Yeah.
Because everyone goes, well, he's won X amount of Champions Leagues, he's won league titles, he's a serial winner. Does it mean he can't lose his confidence? He looks like a player who's massively lacking in losing confidence.
Yeah, but he's still going, you can imagine the team sheet. Am I playing? Yay! I'm playing at centre-back again. Yeah. Oh, dear. And it must be hard for him. We also saw yesterday the rain pouring through the Old Trafford roof. Much has been made of the state of Old Trafford. Does this underline in some ways the work that needs to be done? Is this an indicator of the work that needs to be done at Old Trafford, not just on the pitch, but off it there?
Yeah, I think that's been highlighted before, though, hasn't it? I think that's something that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said, is that they've talked about building a new ground, they've talked about refurbing Old Trafford. It's not a surprise to anyone that the ground's like that. It's just highlighted every time it rains.
But an analogy or metaphor, I never know which one's which, but is
Yeah.
it, you know, the sort of decline and the way that it's been let go?
Yeah, but that's part of the Glazers' tenure. That's something that they should have done and should have improved on. But we know what the Glazers are like, and they don't want to do things like that. So Jim Ratcliffe will come in and make sure that that's all sorted. I mean, how long it'll take, not so sure. But he'll be embarrassed about that yesterday, because it's all over the media outlets, and that's the last thing he wants is negative being on the pitch and off the pitch. I think that the time he's had at the football club so far and what he's trying to put together behind the scenes, I'd be not optimistic if I was a Man United fan, but I'd be very pleased at what he's trying to do, and I'd be trusting that things like the training ground, the stadium, at some point in the near future will be getting sorted.